So now people start realizing, God, the business has grown a ton.
Yep.
And you'll just be
Yep.
able to feel it. More calls, more jobs, more crew. And are you going to do anything? Obviously, you're going to have a capital allocation decision to make, but let's say you decide a lot of that will accrue to you. You sort of have a nicer car or a nicer house, and yet, like, sometimes it's better to be a little frugal on investing in equipment, and capital allocation decisions are a fundamental role that you play as owner. So it's kind of interesting, right? Like, how do you share that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, I haven't had this issue of excess capital to allocate for a long time. So if I had that issue, what would I do with it? That's a whole different question. But it's really like, how would you communicate that to the team?
That was the question. Yeah. So,
yeah.
And assuming, like, okay, now you're getting close to 40, let's say, and you decide to just, how do you say this? You get the reward of having bet on yourself and taking the risk. You took your side of the trade. Then what happens when, like, you sort of resist some FF&E upgrade requests all while, like, you got a new car?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, I mean, where my gut goes as you ask that question is part of my responsibility as the owner is to have hired leaders who have just a strong sense of conscientiousness and or ownership in the business, right? Like, where they have, whether it's whether it's, like a percentage of P&L or a literal percentage of equity, right? Some sort of stake in the business being a well-run business, right? From a financial standpoint. And so I think like I just don't think any business can succeed long-term if the key people in it are not understanding what it takes for a business to exist long-term, right? And the decisions that have to be made. And so like and this feels like a little bit of a cop-out to your question, but I think like I would hope that by the time somebody else is owning FF&E decisions, right, like purchasing new equipment and making that trade-off, I would hope that that person is sufficiently trained and sufficiently incentivized that when they come to me with the like, hey, I want to go spend $250K on a new bucket truck, like they will be able to tell me why that's worth it and give me the actual rationale for it. And then assuming they have done that well, I will say yes.
Yep. I think that's exactly the right thing to do. I'm just saying that even if you give that answer, you're going to have to deal with perception issues.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is always a challenge, right? Like perception and practice are so different. I mean, one example of that, right, actually, to pick on the bucket truck issue, because we could totally use a second bucket truck. Like right now, our most important thing is keeping our schedule full for 4 crews, right? Like that actually matters more. And so I actually care less right now about optimizing the 4 crews, like, and their pace of productivity, because we don't have like this excess load of jobs for them to finish, right? So like every incremental dollar of capital today, I would rather allocate to marketing spend than towards a payment on another bucket truck, which would make our 4 crews faster. And if anything, make my problem worse, right? But when you're from the crew standpoint, it's like, what are you doing, right? Like, why aren't you, like, we should have another bucket. Like that's a clear thing that we should have another bucket truck. And so like kind of explaining that as like, hey, I actually don't want our crews to be more efficient right now. That's not what I'm solving for. Eventually, once our 4 crews are totally full, and now I'm like, hey, how do I make our 4 crews more productive? That's when I hit buy on the bucket truck. That's a hard thing to explain in a way that like doesn't make people feel crazy.
Yep. I know. And it's even worse if like, because I've seen this too, some owners who searchers have bought from are kind of like toy people. They look at their equipment, their fleet as toys, and so their team is always using the best stuff.
Yep.
And it's a tough thing to comp against as a new owner.